Well, either you're closing your eyes to a situation you do not wish to acknowledge, or you are not aware of the caliber of disaster.
Hello.
The Emperor has been expecting you.
You're gonna get your mind right.
Warning. Common sense incoming.
Alive. It's alive!
Warning, this contains explicit material suitable for children.
Great heavens! What kind of radio show is this?
This is the Blab.
Well, I don't know about you, but I could not be more proud to be an American of these American here, United States, if I woke up tomorrow morning with my head stapled to the carpet. That's from Christmas Vacation. And it's the Blab. I'm Scott Edward Phelps. Dave Simmons is here, and very exciting. First of all, well, you know what? Let's just do this. I'm being snarky because if you're watching the vidcast, the graphic for the episode is up, and the title of this week's episode is up, and it's No Vacci-Nation Under God, in the Name of God. Yep, we're back, baby. We're fighting about masks. We're fighting about vaccines. People are dropping dead and clogging the hospitals like an artery after a chicken dinner, and you know what? David Graham and Neil and those guys sang it best many years ago. We have all been here before. Yes. But before we do that, the executive producers had a meeting this week and said, you know, they came back to me and said, you know, you guys talk about an awful lot of depressing shit on that show.
Yes, we do.
And I said, well, you know, life in this fucking country is depressing right now. It just is. There's good times, there's good moments, but there's a lot of depressing shit going on. So I said, you know what? Let me offer you this. Before we get into the depressing stuff, which is an inevitability, ergo because of what I just said there, let's start off with, well, let's inoculate. There's a word.
We can inoculate.
Let's inoculate everybody and ourselves with a little lighthearted stuff.
I tried that all through my 20s to inoculate everybody.
Well, we've heard the stories about it. And you, most of them, you actually,
yes,
as it turned out.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. Which probably explains why you're licking your lips in that picture that you posted earlier today. But we'll talk about that after a while, too. I thought, okay, let's inoculate everybody against the depressing shit with a little upbeat shit and just at random. So what I did was I picked 2 or 3 things. I'm just going to throw them out. We can talk about them or comment. If not, there you go. But in the category of, what are they called? Well, let's see. I thought they're not irritating. They're not annoying. They're not insulting. They're not frustrating. They're not political per se. Everybody would enjoy them. Hey, gosh darn it. Let's call them crowd pleasers.
Happy talk, keep talking, happy talk.
Kind of set the mood.
That's a nice mood.
Well, I'm a mood-setting motherfucker.
There you go.
For example, and this is like, who cares, but I do, and I thought it was kind of nice. Jon Stewart and Pete Davidson, that really strange dude, and that's saying a lot from Saturday Night Live, are going to host an all-star 9/11 tribute.
Oh, great.
In honor of, it's 20 years this year since 9/11.
2001, 2021. Nice math.
Thank you.
Way to go, Steve.
Louisiana, 6th grade. The lineup includes Dave Chappelle, Amy Schumer, John Mulaney, Bill Burr, Colin Jost, Michael Che, Colin Quinn, Dave Attell, Jay Farrow, Jimmy Fallon, Ronnie Chieng, Tom Segura, and Wanda Sykes. And I tell you what, I'm psyched up, and no pun intended, because when I read that list the first time, I was like, wow. At my age, I'm so impressed. I knew like 3 of those fucking names. 3 out of the 3. Now, the very first one, Dave Chappelle, everybody kind of knows who Dave Chappelle is.
Yeah.
Dave is huge. But it reminded me of something else. And I pondered for a while, and I thought, Dave Chappelle. Oh, right. Joey and Phoebe.
Je m'appelle Claude.
Je t'appelle Lou.
That's a great episode.
It's a great episode, and there's like 3 different versions. No, Joey. No. Je m'appelle Claude. Cavaloup black. Anyway, we wanted to put on a fun celebration to honor the city's resilience. It's nice to be able to do this.
So it's almost like a modern comic relief.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The money's going to, all proceeds will go to 9/11 charities, and it's going to be at Madison Square Garden for a fully vaccinated crowd. They're going to require fully vaccinated. There you go. So I just, there's a positive thing, a good thing people doing. Check this out. Johnny Depp is going to be receiving, I wish I had a drum roll, but I don't. Thank you. The Lifetime Achievement Award from the San Sebastian Film Festival. And I looked it up, and I got to tell you, the prestige of that award, that particular award, of course, is such that I think maybe even Dave and I might have a shot at it someday.
It's right up there with the
fucking
Delaware Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Lifetime Achievement Award in the San Sebastian. A long time ago, when Bob Newhart first came along, back in the early 1960s, and he was a stand-up, what passed for stand-up comedy in those days, and his shtick was imaginary phone conversations and or anecdotes about his life. Unlike the current stuff, but still. And he used to do this hilarious, it was then anyway, semi-true story, I'm sure, about how when he was in Korea as a soldier, and he said, I was given a 3-day pass, and he said, and I wanted to go to somewhere, but I had to, it was only a 3-day pass. So I wanted to fly, but I couldn't hitch a ride on a military thing. And his whole routine was about how he found this discount. And this, remember, this is like 1960, 61, long time before Spirit Airways and all that other
Frontier.
shit. He said he found the Grace L. Ferguson Airline and Storm Door Company. Then he proceeds to, you should look it up. It's available, I'm sure, on YouTube or whatever. But when I thought Johnny Depp is getting the Lifetime Achievement Award from the San Sebastian Film Festival.
You think he's going to show up for it?
He's a whimsical guy. I would.
Yeah.
Because why not? I mean, I'm sure the people in
they love
San Sebastian
would love to see
are delightful people. All right. Pizza Hut. Now, I don't make this shit up because, as we mentioned last week, we don't have to say you can't make that shit up anymore because you don't have to make this shit up. Pizza Hut is planning to use AI technology to recommend orders to customers based on the weather in their location. They're building their own AI tech to understand more about what customers want. Now, the article said, it's unclear how the weather will influence pizza recommendations. But the company's head of global analytics said that Pizza Hut is still in the early stages of developing the technology. And I said to myself, and there you went and thought that Bezos and Elon and Branson were the champions of pissing away millions and billions of dollars. And I think we have a new contender.
Pizza Hut.
What fucking difference does it make?
Who knows? Who knows?
Well, that's my point. All right, in this one, again, this is just chit-chat stuff. Or just hit and run. Hit it and quit it, as Rod says.
I did that a lot in my 20s.
Yeah, you did. What do you mean your 20s? Still. In a manner of speaking, because you're a happily relationship guy.
Yes.
This one has a happy ending, and everybody knows Dave loves happy endings.
He said pussy.
No, not yet. And you may or may not have heard about this, but this to me, I say, it's crowd pleasers, it's upbeat stuff, it's getting, but this has a little tinge of what the fuck is wrong with people and how fucked we really are right now. Coors Field is where the Colorado Rockies play ball. They were playing the Miami Marlins. A guy sitting behind home plate hollered out what Marlins player Lewis Brinson, who's black, says, and other people there said was the N-word at Brinson. It turned out there was this whole brouhaha. I've seen, there's a video, but what the video looks like a selfie, and it was a tweet that somebody, or an Instagram thing. Right. And I looked at it, and I'm going to play something here for you in a second, just to show you, because there's a fun psychological thing involved here. The guy hollered out, "Nigger!" Okay, a couple times, but wait, there's more. The organization said in a statement, quote, after a thorough investigation that included calls, emails, and video clips from concerned fans, media, and broadcast partners, we've concluded that the fan was actually yelling for, and I'm going to tell you in a second, and there was never any racial slur that occurred. Now, Brinson, and this is what kicks it for me, Brinson, the black player, says, and he said he didn't hear it during the game. This was after the fact. Quote, I watched the video at least 50 times in the past 15, 16 hours. I personally keep hearing the N-word, But he said, I haven't talked to the Rockies or the fan personally, but if that's the case, then okay, and blah, blah, blah. Now, what I got for you here is the audio. It's like 15 seconds.
Okay.
It's quick. And what I tried to do, I haven't doctored it at all. I edited it for time. It's just a little piece of it. It's the play-by-play guys. And you're in the background, you're going to hear this fan yell out, okay, twice. I tried to ramp the volume a little. But let me just play it for you the first time, because we're going to have to do this 2 or 3 times. Now, listen very carefully. And again, this is for real.
Hits today, 3 yesterday. Here's the 1-0. And again, it's 2-0. And this is not to pick on.
Okay. Now, it came quick. So now you know where you kind of hear where it was. Now, listen again.
Hits today, 3 yesterday. Here's the 1-0. And again, it's 2-0. And this is not to pick on.
Can you hear him screaming in the background?
I hear him screaming.
Okay, one more time. Now, remember, he is supposedly saying the N-word.
Hits today, 3 yesterday. Here's the 1-0. And again, it's 2-0. And this is not to pick on.
Now, here's the punchline. The Colorado Rockies mascot is a dinosaur. Little stuffed, big stuffed dinosaur.
Uh-huh.
Its name is Dinger. If you look at the video, and I watched it several times, and what kicked me about this is Brinson saying he's watched it 50 times in the last 16 hours and still can't. The guy is not looking out. Because
he's looking at the dinosaur?
Well, he's looking down what I'm guessing would probably be the first baseline, which is where Dinger's probably bouncing around back and forth. And the contention is that he was trying to get Dinger's attention so that Dinger would come down, they could get a picture, do whatever they do. Now, with that in mind, listen again and think Dinger.
Hits today, 3 yesterday. Here's the 1-0. And again, it's 2-0. And this is not to pick on.
You see? Yeah. Now, here's the psychological trick, and I discovered this when I edited this piece and made it fun. And I think it speaks to the higher problem of we hear what we want to hear and disregard the rest, which is problematic in our lives and political shit and all the rest of that. Dinger.
Hits today, 3 yesterday. Here's the 1-0. And again, it's 2-0. And this is not to pick on.
Now, think, wait a minute, I think that guy actually said the N-word.
Hits today, 3 yesterday. Here's the 1-0. And again, it's 2-0. And this is not.
You see how it changes? Mm-hmm. It's like an optical audio illusion. I think he was saying Dinger. And
yeah, well, you said he wasn't even looking at the batter.
No.
Yeah, if he's not looking,
he's looking down what first base line. He's looking, but yeah, he's looking for the dinosaur. But that just goes to show.
And Dinger is another word for home run. That's what they call home runs, dingers.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah. So I get it.
This is where we are, as we've talked many times already, about the gotcha culture, where
this was the thing that remember I told you Ben Crenshaw and that black activist was talking about. Your mind automatically goes to the worst thing. Mm-hmm. You know, like, remember I told you about the situation on the plane and they were like, food's passed out according to air miles. And apparently it was on that airline. Yeah. But it was, it was just, it made no sense. Uh-huh. But even Ben Crenshaw even said, I was like, what is going on? Because she reached right over him and took my order.
It's funny.
Yeah.
And yet... So, lesson learned. Think about that. Yeah. Let's find out what's going on in today's world. I was alluding to a photograph that Dave posted on Facebook just right before a little while ago, before we went on.
Popped up in my memories.
Oh, what was that, like 1962, 63?
That was a 1985 unused band shot. And obviously the reasons why it was unused.
Well, you guys had, you looked right for the times. You had,
but I was licking my lips.
You had the bass 80s.
Player wasn't even looking at the camera.
You did, yeah. Well, it wasn't one of the best shots.
No.
You know, I've noticed something about Mike though. Mike Hines, the Mike Hines of Mike Hines and the Look, and I'm sure there must be some, and you probably have them or you've seen them because you've been with this band since 1947, but. He doesn't take a bad picture.
No, he's one of photogenic,
those. Yeah. Well, yeah, but you're photogenic. But he's one of those guys. He's like, which one of my granddaughters is it? I think it's the oldest one, who's now like 23. But when she was a little toddler, hand to God, she was a ringer for the Gerber baby. In fact, I even told her mother, get this kid to a modeling agency or something.
Right.
But she was one of these kind of people that if you were sitting in a chair with a camera and she was toddling around and with her back to you or whatever, and I wish we were viding so you could see this, but she was like, I can remember doing it. I would put the camera up and I'd go, Ella. And most kids that age would kind of sort of turn around and say, what's going on? She would turn around and it was almost like out of a movie where she'd just turn around and and the smile and the pose, and she was like 2 years old in diapers. So.
Yeah, Mike's very photogenic. He really is. He always has been.
Is that why he gets top billing in the
That's
back?
why he gets top billing, because the rest of us look like shit.
Well, I wouldn't say shit. Feces.
Dude,
maybe.
I was reading an article. The new James Bond movie, No Time to Die.
Well, it's the new old James Bond movie, but
the one that's getting ready to come out in October.
Right.
Apparently, they need $900 million in box office just to break even. That's insane.
Why?
I guess all the CGI and all the
Really?
Yeah.
You know, Billie Eilish wrote, or she did. She and her brother composed and wrote the theme song.
I know that.
I got a snippet of it here.
Every one of her songs sounds the same.
It's pretty intense.
The other thing was they've rebooted Fantasy Island. Did you see that?
Yeah, I've seen the promos. I'm not interested.
Well, it's Rosalind Sanchez, which she's hot. She'll play Elena Rourke, the grandniece of Mr. Rourke, who
you don't have it.
How
old are you now?
You don't have it queued up, do you?
What?
Con.
No.
Yeah, damn you.
Con's on a race.
Damn you.
Well, it was either Con
He said pussy.
or Pussy. You can only have one or the other this week. And of course, Billie Eilish's brand new song. I always want to make mention of the fact, how old are you this year? 54?
56.
56. And you still gauge things just instinctively. You know, you were spewing a little mini review of this TV series, but the second sentence out of your mouth was, and she's hot. And then you went on. That's a criteria we all look for in our...
Yes. Obviously.
You're one of them vagina-crats, aren't you?
Vagina-crat.
Anyway, so
oh, Lord.
I'm still hung up on the $900 million.
There you go.
Who spent all that money?
Did you see in Chicago? Oh, this is fucking awful, dude. Police officer Ella French.
No, I'm sorry.
Why are you laughing?
You'll know in a little while. Because I think we've reached the point where we need to put a Dave Chicago segment into the program every week. Because it's kind of turning into that.
Were you going to bring it up?
Chicago, but not that story.
Well, Ella French and her partner pulled a car over on a routine traffic stop.
Okay.
They got out of the car. She's 29, a mother. This poor girl's just trying to get through her shift so she can get the fuck home to her family.
Was she hot?
Actually, she wasn't bad looking.
You see? You can't help yourself.
But two of these motherfuckers, Imante and Eric Morgan, are brothers, opened fire on the two police officers walking up to the car and killed her.
Yeah.
Her partner's fighting for his life in ICU. And Lori Lightfoot continues to be Lori Lightfoot. I need not say more. But then you got Cori Bush on the heels of this goes on CNN and is talking about we need to defund the police. The police are not working. I mean, it's to the point now.
Can I offer something in regard, and two things.
Yeah.
Number one, that kind of activity, that criminal, horrific behavior is unacceptable and needs to be, put them in the goddamn chair and throw the switch. I'll do it and sleep like a baby. I got no problem with that. But here's the other part of this, and I'm not defending or condoning. What I'm saying is everybody needs to get their fucking vocabulary and grammar straight. Defunding the police is the wrong word for what the people who are sensibly looking at this activity are trying to suggest and or accomplish. And I'm not necessarily an
that's the
advocate
word
or
she used. So
I understand that. And this is the point when and it just makes it worse because defund means to take away defunds. And that means if the police ain't got no more money, then there can't be no more police, and more people going to get killed. I shouldn't be talking like that in this context.
But you sounded just like her. So,
well,
but Bush, she's a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, the DSA, as are AOC, Rashida Tlaib, and that whole group. And And the DSA is a big proponent for, again, defunding the police, their exact words. Dude, you don't have a Democratic Party anymore, dude. I'm actually going right where you go every week. There is no Democratic Party. There's a bunch of outside.
Okay.
There's a bunch of borderline criminal lifetime politicians that monetarily benefit off their position and don't give a fuck about their constituents.
Okay.
Fuck the Democrats. Matter of fact, fuck the Republicans. I'm tired of all these motherfuckers. We need to get people in office that actually give a shit about the things that affect us.
For those of you keeping track, it was about 8 episodes ago where Dave finally came to the realization that the whole fucking system needs to be flushed right down the crapper. He kind of faded away from that for a while, but hey, we're back, baby.
It's back. Defund the government. Let's start that. Yeah.
I agree.
Fuck these motherfuckers. All of them.
I agree. How many times have you heard me say in one form or another that I don't think it's possible? I'm not sure. I'm concerned that it's beyond repair and simply needs to be demolished and rebuilt. But you first.
The experiment's over.
Who's going to do? Well, yeah, but who's going to do it? Because the system is designed.
Let's dig up Lee Harvey Oswald and give him a machine gun.
I'm going to tell you something right now, and it's not going to make much sense, but in a few minutes you're going to go, he's a wise man, and you're going to have a laugh too. Just remember this phrase, Enola Gay. Just remember that. Okay. Nobody in any the system. See, the thing about the American experiment, democracy, the republic, freedom, et cetera, et cetera. It hinges on something that this country has been fortunate enough to have in at least 51% majority supply for its duration. And that is really people, men and women, of some honor and some of integrity and et cetera. We don't have that. That's the fuel of the engine that is democracy, not to get the metaphor weirded out. And what I've been saying all along in the various ways that I say it is this is the problem, is because it's profiles in courage requires courage. That means stepping up and stepping out and saying, this isn't right, and it doesn't matter what let me give you an example, one quick in and out. Hit it and quit it. Liz Cheney is an example. She's just the first one that pops into my head of somebody who seems to be genuinely following her conscience and trying to follow some measure of honor and integrity within the system, and they're going to do everything they can do short of murdering her. And I don't think that they're beyond that either, because that's where we are. And, there's the problem. In that spirit, let's move to the next logical extension and let's talk about the plague.
My Corona. My Corona.
And that's a perfect example of government in action. Real quick, and some quick notes I made, just bullet points shit. The New Orleans Jazz Fest has been pushed back now to next spring. It was scheduled to go in October, but the new Delta COVID variant is just ripping their manewing down there. So in the interest of public service, public safety, blah, blah, blah. And I don't mean that to be flip. I agree. Already you're seeing, if you're paying any attention at all, you're seeing that the news stories are coming back and saying the hospitals are starting to fill up again. Yep. The ICUs are filling up again. And some of these people who have been anti-vax, anti-mask are all suddenly seeing, it's infuriating because you just want to punch them in their fucking throat and say,
well, as of August 16th, Delaware goes back under the all of the schools have to be masked, and all of the state offices masks are required.
Yep.
So I think we're heading back there. Something came out. Something came out of Sweden, very, very strange, the other day regarding COVID. No, regarding COVID. The new 7-day average of COVID deaths in Sweden was 0. Despite only 9% mask compliance, which is really, that's very odd if that's accurate.
You know what the secret is? The meatballs.
No, either that or just maybe in Sweden it's not like New York. They're not living on top of each other. That's probably part of it.
I don't know.
But that's very, very strange because they said Sweden's only having about 9% mask compliance.
You know what? Here's an underscore thought too, and it's something that I wail about all the time. And I'm out there in the wilderness screaming, and the echoes bounce around, and a few people go, "Yeah, you're right. No, I appreciate that you're saying that," but most people just roll their eyes or they ignore it entirely, and I understand why. But here's the thing, and it comes back to a subject that I've broached often: freedom. And as weird as this sounds, and it's easy to misconstrue what I'm going to say because I've said it before and I know it gets misconstrued. This fucking country's had too much freedom, and it's had too much freedom too long. And what you're seeing a lot of times now is the result of that. You're seeing the rot of the teeth from too much sugar. Okay? I'm not talking about, and this is the thing that anti-intellectuals, which is the polite, I'm going to call them that from now on, by the way, because I know you're concerned about my repeated use of the word stupid. So from now on, I'm going to say those fucking anti-intellectuals, all right, those moronic anti-intellectuals, immediately jump to it's either all or nothing at all.
Right.
What, are you talking about taking away our freedom? No, man, I'm not talking about taking away your fucking freedom. I'm talking about common sense. Mm-hmm. I suspect, because the human condition exists everywhere, I suspect in Sweden and in other parts of Europe and in many parts of Asia, and the way they're operated, the value system they operate under, and is kind of inflicted on them, or that they inflict on each other because they have a higher integrity about it. They have, I think it might be even fair to say, I don't know, this might be a fun research product for our term paper. I think maybe other countries, even free countries, have less freedom, and I think that's healthy. This country is just spoiled fucking rotten, and that's a large part of the problem because that's where the anti-mask, anti-vax shit comes in.
Right, right.
This give me liberty or give me death, I refuse to, and blah, blah, blah. It does go on everywhere. It's interesting. I made a note. Eric Clapton has been on record lately as saying he's anti-vax and 14 are fighting. He's in that school. Brian May of Queen went public and said, Eric's a good mate and a good buddy, but I think he's wrong about this.
Right, right.
And he went on to say, and I only put the note because it cracked me up. This was Brian May talking. Anti-vax people, I'm sorry, they're fruitcakes. There's plenty of evidence to show the vaccination helps. On the whole, they've been very safe. There's always going to be some side effects in any drug you take, but to go around saying vaccines are a plot to kill you, I'm sorry. That goes in the fruitcake jar for me. And I thought, yeah. And I've ordered us a fruitcake jar from Amazon, by the way, so we can put it right here on the old show.
The other thing, and this is the one thing that we're also seeing. The people that are supposed to be setting examples for us aren't. The politicians, the leaders, things of that nature.
Yeah.
And that's Rashida Tlaib. She's seen dancing maskless at a wedding in a CDC orange zone. You know what that is, right? That's a high transmission zone.
Yeah.
And this was like 16 hours after she slammed Rand Paul for criticizing the COVID, situation. So you got people seeing that, and they're like, people don't want to do as you say, but not do as you do. That's the same problem Trump had when he would not wear a mask. If he would have just wore a mask at the beginning of this fucking thing, dude, odds are he might even still be president. You know what I mean? The COVID.
So it turns out there is a silver lining in the plague.
But you see what I'm saying?
I do.
I mean, because part of his downfall was his handling of the COVID situation.
It's part of it's when the epitaph is written for this guy, and if he doesn't end up in prison when he finally dies, God willing, that's going to be the backstory. Is that and that goes back to the same shit. He's a sociopath, and that's different. That's clinical.
But I mean, the example is there. Had he wore a mask, how many of his followers would have jumped on the mask, worn the mask, not bitched, not moaned, spewed about their freedom.
Yeah, I agree. And,
you know what I mean?
And I my eyes rolled the moment I saw the first news story 4 or 5, 6, whenever fucking days ago, when they were talking about the 60th birthday for Obama on Martha's Vineyard and how there was going to be a party with 6,000 people and they were all going to be maskless and blah, blah, and yada, yada. And I went, okay. And in the context of the principle we're talking about right here, yes.
Optics are reality,
well,
unfortunately.
Depending, sure, sure. Except, and I'm not defending, I'm simply assessing the situation when I say, the guy's done his time, he's not president, he's just a Q citizen. If he wants to have 8,000 people at his house without, and they weren't, there were masks, there were vaccines.
He gave out masks. From what I read about it, he gave out masks. Apparently, about half the people wore them, half the people didn't.
Yeah. Well, nobody is immune from my theory of freedom abuse. Let's call it that.
Right.
Like drug abuse. E pluribus unum, fuck that. The new motto is, do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
That's the result of too much freedom.
Yeah, you're right.
And how do you and how do you fix that? Oh, I wonder. Well, you know what? I'm scrolling.
Enola Gay.
Just turns out. One other note I made: the Eagles are going to have a forecast. The Eagles are going to have a concert in Seattle, November 5th. Vaccinated only, strictly enforced. Guests must receive blah blah blah. Then there were some questions on the website. Why are they doing the mandate? What about it? Common sense answers and common sense things. And if they want to do that, you know, there you go.
Now, what is? How are they enforcing that? What do you have to show it at the door?
I guess
you have to show it when you buy your tickets. I mean, what's the?
Well, there's the FAQ section of the website. Why is the Eagles concert mandating vaccines? They've decided the guests need to be fully vaccinated. Decision taken by the band, supported by the Climate Pledge Arena team to ensure they are safe, blah, blah. What about children under 12? That's the only exception. Children under 12 may provide proof of a negative PCR COVID-19 test. You know what? This is I don't know, and I don't know what the concert is for. It doesn't mention whether it's some kind of a benefit, something or whatever, but whether it's just an Eagle show. But you know what the turnout in this thing is going to be?
6 people.
Yeah. Because you know what? Who was it, that wise guy? Oh, that was a guy about 4 or 5 minutes ago. Yeah, me, who said this country is spoiled fucking rotten.
Right.
I'm not gonna Eagle show. I have fucking cards on COVID. I fucking need. I don't have to do that. This is America. I can do whatever the fuck I want to. And you know that's gonna be the epitaph on the big fucking headstone when they finally bury this country and start over somewhere. I'm just saying. I hope it doesn't. Well, part of me hopes it doesn't happen soon. The other part of me. One note here, just for fun and for a chuckle. The Tokyo Olympics had their closing ceremony. The 2020 Tokyo Olympics, which because of COVID was, of course, actually held in 2021, which I did the math on this. That means in just 3 more years,
we're going to have another Olympics.
The 2024 Olympics will be postponed until 2027, and you got to go along with that. But for sheer mathematical work, and I purged this from the late night, Seth Meyers summed the whole Olympic experience up just like this.
The Tokyo Olympics ended and U.S. athletes brought home 39 gold medals, 41 silvers, 33 bronze, and 4 new variants.
We've been here before. There's nothing new. It's a different virus because it's a variation of the virus, but the disease, the cancer, let's mix the hell out of the metaphor, is this foolish. It's just foolish. It's a foolish, stupid notion.
It is.
That freedom can be dispensed, displayed, and engaged in without some measure of control or responsibility or accountability or all those things. All abilities are locked in a drawer somewhere.
The weird thing, Rogan had a virologist on the other day, and they had a fascinating discussion. And the actual new strains of COVID come from vaccinated people, according to this virologist. And he said because the COVID vaccines don't kill the virus, and like most vaccine, like you get the polio vaccine,
right?
You don't get polio,
right?
You get, any other, you don't get that disease. But with the COVID vaccines, because of whatever the way the disease is or the way they're made, you can still get the disease. He says the people that are getting the disease with the vaccine that's how those variants of the COVID are born. They're born within vaccinated people. So he wasn't telling people not to get vaccinated, but he was just explaining because. Joe's a smart guy and he questions everything. And he's like, where are these variants coming from? Where are these different versions of COVID coming from? And then he broke that down. And I was like, wow, that's fascinating. I would have never thought that. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said they're actually working on a vaccine.
What I was going to
traditional.
Yes. My first reaction, my first instinctive in my brain reaction when you said what you just said was, because this particular vaccine wasn't created in the processing methodology that other vaccines have been created. The polio vaccine wasn't created to cure a pandemic that was killing hundreds of thousands of people by the day from polio. So it was a rush job.
Right.
And you got what you got, and you get what you get.
Well, he said they're actually working on. He called it a vaccine. He said we're actually working on a vaccine that's more like a traditional vaccine that actually kills the virus, so you don't get COVID.
And those who get the vaccine, of course, will find that they have a sudden craving to hear a lot of Duran Duran music because that's just the.
But no, dude, it was about. That segment of the conversation was about 18 minutes, and it was fascinating because, to hear somebody who actually knows what they're talking about.
Oh, my God.
Is, because most of the people that spew the shit about COVID, they don't know what they're talking about. They haven't done their research.
That's,
what I mean?
Yeah, that's largely true about everything.
Yeah. But to hear somebody that was breaking down, actually what ingredients are in the transport modes are in this current vaccine, and
that's
things like that. It's crazy.
It's good to know that. It's good to hear that because there's an old-fashioned part of me that goes, yeah, this is really cool. But then the newfangled part of me that is hip to groovy, what's going on around here, goes, you know what? And again, I give the shrug. At the end of the day, at least for now, it doesn't fucking matter,
right? Because
this freedom abuse that we talk about is this thing where people go, if they hear what they want to hear, they're good with it. And if they don't hear what they don't, if they hear what they don't want to hear, they simply ignore it.
Right.
Or they jump on fake news, or they do whatever the fuck they need to do to convince themselves that it's okay. And that's a kind of a form of vanity. It's certainly a form of pride. It's a form of arrogance. I think you can weave pretty much any one of the 7 deadly sins in and out of there. And that's where it's like, I feel sometimes like I'm a reverse evangelist. I really do. It's like, instead of saying, and tomorrow there'll be a better day as we turn to the glory and the light, and I'm sitting here going, and we're all fucked straight to hell. And there's not a damn thing we can do about it because freedom has eaten us alive. I hope you enjoyed yourself while you were free out there, you dumb fuckers, because you have killed yourself in civilization.
That's funny. Yeah, that was weird though. That the different forms, the new forms of COVID are being bred within the people that are vaccinated that get sick.
Sure.
So I guess the disease is like, oh well, I don't like this. Let's change.
And the insidious part here is the dangerous part, and the potentially fatal part is that none of these things are recognized as something that should be recognized and should be points to come together to deal with, to say, okay, well, we're all working together to find a solution and get through this dark forest, so let's take that into account. No, it just becomes another fucking ping pong ball
that gets bounced around.
Back and forth between the right and the left and the extreme and the ups and the downs.
But you know me, I'm a curious guy. I like to hear the truth. I like to hear somebody tell me the truth.
Well, you're going to love this. Let's do our ha-ha history stuff.
This is my country.
All right. This is where we just throw out some fun stuff that happened in this particular week in a particular year that we're in. And here we go. You'll see what if you haven't heard it before. This week in 1833, Chicago, here we go. Chicago was incorporated in 1833 as a village with a population of less than 200 at the time. And as Dave reports each week, it's only a matter of weeks before the population gets glocked right back down to that number.
And you can thank Lori Lightfoot.
That's right. Not to be confused with Jay Silverheels, who played Tonto, the much beloved sidekick of the Lone Ranger.
And that, oddly enough, she looks like Beetlejuice.
Oh, well, there you go.
Well, how far off am I, Scott?
Well, then, can't you get rid of her with Beetlejuice? Or does that make her show up?
Yeah, I think if you say Lightfoot fast 3 times, she shows up.
Okay. This week in 1945, and remember I said the phrase earlier, the American B-29 bomber Enola Gay dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima, or Hiroshima, depending on which side of the street you're from, in Japan, killing 150,000 people and wiping out 4 square miles. Sadly, today, there's never an Enola Gay around when Congress is in session.
How many Chinese restaurants did that destroy?
In Japan?
Well,
that's a different part of Asia, dude. And they didn't have sushi in those days. Also, this week in 1945, Japan announced its willingness to surrender to the Allies.
I wonder why.
One day after the second of the 2 atomic bombs took out Nagasaki, proving that stubborn, selfish political points of view can easily be adjusted with just a little mega tonnage. Again, Congress in session, just saying. This week in 1985, Like a Virgin by Madonna became the first album by a female to be certified for sales of 5 million. Fun coincidence, I noticed, being that the very same week that happened, 5 million was the official number of guys that Madonna had slept with up to that point.
Wow.
Did you ever sleep with Madonna?
No, I did not.
I didn't either.
I never messed with those beef curtains.
You remember Phil Donahue?
Yes, I do.
Do you remember Rex Reed?
Yes.
The acerbic. If you don't know this, kids, look him up on the YouTube or the Google. He was a movie critic, and he was a pistol boy.
He was hardcore. Yeah,
he didn't pull any punches. And Madonna was just coming to fame in the particular period I'm remembering. There was an episode where Rex Reed was Phil Donahue's guest, and he was sitting on the stage taking Q&A from the audience. And I never forgot it because it just made me laugh literally out loud, and the audience was aboard because he was being so blunt. But it was Rex Reed. And Phil Donahue said, so what do you like in contemporary entertainment? What do you think about the music? What do you think about, Huey Lewis or whoever he was talking about? And said, yeah, what about Madonna? She's the new phenomenon. And Rex's lip kind of curled and his face kind of puckered. And he had he was a gay man, and he had, when it wasn't cool, and he had think of a gay Paul Lynde.
Yeah.
Remember Paul Lynde?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. And he talked with sort of a haughty kind of, well, frankly, but, and I'll never forget, he goes, I don't care for Madonna, frankly. I'll tell you what, whatever people get out of her music, let it be what it is. But for me, when I see her, she just looks like the kind of person who has on dirty underwear. Anyway, and this week in 2005, iTunes became the first music source to have a catalog of over 1 million songs. And songwriters all over the world were totally jazzed, looking forward to what would eventually become, I think, up to 26 cents in royalties. And we try to be funny, and we do what we can. All right, I need to dribble for a second here. And I'm not going to pick on Dave or say the word hero, because all I will say is that Dave did tell me at one point that he was kind of impressed with what was going on with the guy. This is real quick from, you know who David Axelrod is, don't you?
Yes, yeah.
The commentator. Mm-hmm. He's a political consultant. You've seen him on CNN and various shows. He used to work for Obama, and he's worked for Bill Clinton and a lot of people. I like him. He seems very centered. He seems politically and otherwise. He's a Democrat.
He's savvy, yeah.
But he's not. He's kind of a. I think it's not Snuffleupagus, but who am I thinking of? The character in the cartoons is just kind of a frumpy sort of. Well, we're just gonna
bird.
We always say talk.
Well, that's Snuffleupagus.
There you go. Well, but Dave's an intelligent guy. He wrote this piece, and it was published online. And this is going to take me about 60 seconds to read it to you, but I cut it down from what would have been like an hour and a half here. And this is his words. Quote, Florida is once again under siege from COVID at the epicenter of a fourth wave. 1 in 5 new cases nationally have been reported in the state, virtually all spurred by the Delta strain. If you were governor, you probably would recognize the threat and think it's your duty to work day and night to ensure that every single resident who's eligible gets the vaccination that can save their lives. You'd think it, but not Ron DeSantis. Where you might see tragic, unnecessary loss and suffering, Florida's governor apparently sees something else: opportunity. Since the pandemic first emerged, DeSantis, an uber-ambitious Donald Trump wannabe, has clawed his way to the top of the potential Republican field with his showy defiance of public health experts and directives. When Biden singled out DeSantis and Greg Abbott of Texas, a state that's the second leading contributor of infections in this current surge, the Florida governor took to the airwaves to blast Biden and cast himself as the leader of the resistance. Quote, Joe Biden suggests if you don't do lockdown policies, then you should, quote, get out of the way. Well, let me tell you this. If you're coming after the rights of parents in Florida, I'm standing in your way, said DeSantis, with a righteous indignation sure to quicken Trumpian hearts and online donations. DeSantis sees more gold in the battle with the healthcare bureaucrats and experts he says are lording over the citizenry. Previewing a little a battle between himself and Biden, well, that's a chance he couldn't pass up. And in fairness, Biden did invite it by singling DeSantis out. All of this is in service of the governor's obvious and overriding goal, which is to be the inheritor of the Trump base in 24 if brooding former president takes a pass or becomes too hot for the GOP to handle. Climbing infection rates and deaths, hospitals packed to the breaking point, growing risks to unvaccinated children. Well, those are problems for another day. From anybody else, I would have been more inclined to write it off as just your usual political bitch and force. I know you are, but what am I? But I like Axelrod. I respect his point of view, and I respect the way he delivers it in almost everything I've ever heard him talk about.
He's a level-headed guy.
And he's making the point that, you know, every politician has to make politics out of everything they do because that's the nature of the game and the work. But the ones who are really good at it also manage to stumble into serving people from time to time.
Well, what I think the situation with DeSantis is DeSantis actually played the first round of COVID perfect. He played it right. He didn't shut down. He didn't crash his state's economy.
In your honest opinion, did he play it right or did he luck out?
Well, it's a little bit of both, probably. A little bit of both. He played it right. He didn't shut down when everybody else shut down. Therefore, his state's economy didn't crash. Now, what in the world is going on here? Now, one of the things that he's done now is it's back and it's kicking his ass. But for whatever reason, he's doubling down instead of making changes he should make.
Well, Axelrod just spelled it out why he's doing it.
Well, I know, but I said, but
it appeals to the base.
Yeah, I don't get why he's putting up so much fight. You know, instead of just doing some of the things that he needs to do.
Okay, unasked, let me offer you this.
Sure.
I'll say two words to you. And you're a young guy, so you may or may not remember the specific reference. I know you'll remember the guy. George Wallace. Mm-hmm. George Wallace in 1962 stood in the doorway of the University of Alabama.
I remember that.
With the National Guard coming up to him, saying that he was not going to allow the two black students who had decided to enroll in the University of Alabama. And there he was. As governor, I reject this. The governor of the National Guard and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, whoever the fuck that Kennedy sent down there to deal with it. Early on with DeSantis, I was waiting him out. This particular scene, what he's doing right now, it's racism, it's racial stuff in 62, it's plague stuff in 2021. He's posturing.
Yeah.
But you know what? When George Wallace stood behind a podium in the doorway of the University of Alabama and prevented a black lady and a black man from entering the university to simply get an education, there wasn't any rioting and there wasn't any brouhaha, and it was kind of tense for a while, but ultimately they got on in.
Right.
People weren't dying.
That's true.
And they weren't being rolled into hospitals by the dozens. I don't really honestly know, and our personal political disagreements notwithstanding, at what point do we start calling this stuff criminal?
Well, it would have to go both ways because Cuomo killed all those people in the nursing homes.
I'm talking,
and nothing. But what I'm saying is,
let's try not to do that.
No, but what I'm saying is, you can't point at one person and say that's criminal without saying, well, that's criminal.
I'll concede when anybody does it, it's criminal. Let's not do that. At what point do we call Ron DeSantis a criminal and do what's necessary to deal with it because of what's going on down there? And in this case, I'll grant you that he gets a little extra attention from my point of view, and it's not a political point of view, if he was a Democrat, believe me or don't believe me, I'd be saying the same thing. His fucking state
is leading the nation right now.
Leading the nation in sickness and death.
Right.
So,
yeah, I mean, at a certain point, yes, it should be.
Well, what's the point? When is the point? Because it doesn't seem to occur anymore. And this is that part of the process that discourages people to the point where they either get hostile and go crazy and start attaching themselves to the first fucking blonde-haired Georgia idiot who comes along and says that they'll fix it by getting their honey in a shotgun, or they just, their eyes roll up in the top of their head and they take their kids to soccer practice and they pay no attention to what's going on around them anymore because they simply can't handle it. Neither one of those approaches is very beneficial.
Well, no, I would agree there. You know, something has to be done.
Enola Gay.
That's what I'm saying. But yeah, you know, but the point I was trying to make is how do you deem something criminal when criminals going on around you all over the place? We're living in a madhouse, according to Charlton Heston. It's a madhouse.
Well, you know what?
See what I mean?
I know, and my problem with that is the same problem I've always had with that mentality or that philosophy is that ends up, even inadvertently, that ends up being a rationalization for not doing anything about it. I'm not disagreeing with you when I said before. I'll concede you that what's wrong, it's wrong. But a fire's a fire and it needs to be put out. I
would agree with that.
Okay.
Yes.
Saying something and I'm exaggerating to make the point, but saying something like, well, you know, pretty much everything's on fire, so how about it starts somewhere?
Yeah.
How about somebody lands on Ron fucking DeSantis because he's the governor of the #1 state in this country that's shoveling people back into the hospitals and sending them to their doom if that's the case and where it may go and blah, blah, blah. So let's start there. You know, feel free to go after Cuomo. Feel free to go after Fred Durf. I don't give a fuck, but it's got to start somewhere. And that whole business of everybody, well, you know, you got to, and it's sort of, that gets in the way. Because it, again, even if inadvertently, it becomes an excuse for not doing anything.
You're right.
Pick somebody. I don't give a fuck who it is. Just pick one. In this case, I vote for this guy because he's #1. Hand to God, believe me, don't believe me. If Abbott's state was #1, I'd be saying the same fucking thing about him. Although he's starting to backpedal now.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ron DeSantis, mark my words, and then I'll let it go. Ron DeSantis, Axelrod nailed it. Ron DeSantis is the Donald Trump wannabe. There's a lot of them, but he's the genuine deal. He wants to be Donald Trump. He's watched how Trump operates. He saw how successful Trump was with it. He's playing a real dangerous hand here because this thing can really eat him alive. But he's not going to give in because that's where the votes come from. And if a couple of 100,000 people have to die, what the fuck?
Yeah,
I just think that's not something that should be encouraged by, even accidentally, by any.
No, I agree. I agree. It's a sad state that we are in this country because you have something like that going on the Republican side of the let's call it a tennis match. And on the Democratic side, you've got rampant crime. Neither side is giving you a reason to vote for them other than brand loyalty. And that's a fucking shame.
Well, yeah. So we agree the house is on fire. Now what? See, there you go.
I'll pee on it to put it out.
Let's laugh some more.
Quickly, quick, make that thing up.
Oh, you men are all alike. 7 or 8 quick ones.
All right, speaking of COVID, Dr. Fauci and other experts are anxiously awaiting official FDA approval of the COVID vaccine. They believe that's going to result in a new wave of vaccinations when people get the support and they think it's okay. It's
30% of the unvaccinated people said that if it had FDA approval, they would take it.
Okay. That's a whole.
Which I don't quite understand. They got emergency FDA approval to give it. Why wouldn't Biden just fucking redline that shit and just here approve this shit?
I don't know.
I mean, am I insane or does that make too much sense?
Well, you're asking the same question twice. Anyway, Fauci's waiting for the approval. Tucker Carlson is actually awaiting the opportunity to find something obnoxious to say about it, no matter how petty or trivial. And, of course, Donald's actually awaiting the opportunity to take whatever credit there is to be taken. Any credit, doesn't matter, whatever credit's lying around.
Hey, did you see the Dr. Fauci action figure?
I've seen one. What does it?
I don't even know what the fuck it does.
It's nothing. It's just a doll of him in his little white coat. It's cute.
I'm just like, who the fuck wants that?
Oh, come on, man. A year from now or 5 years from now, you can put your kid through college with the eBay money from that thing. A pet venomous West African banded cobra got loose from its owner in Dallas. Now, you're probably asking, why the fuck would anyone have a venomous West African banded cobra as a pet? When you should be asking, why am I not totally surprised this shit happened in Texas? Apparently, because of COVID, handshaking is likely to become a thing of the past, experts say. And the thought occurs to me, after generations of shaking hands with people, when you got a pretty good idea of where their hands have been at one time or another, why would you be letting a little thing like a potentially fatal virus suddenly be the deal breaker? You're like Ringo, peace and love. Just do that.
That's like, I saw a meme that said, if you live in Delaware, you've been eating Scrapple for years, and you're worried about what's in the vaccine.
We just finished in this area, the state fair. And if any of you folk in your other areas have state fairs, you know what I'm talking about. A large part of the demographic that is pro-red cap, anti-vaccine, are the kind of people who spend a lot of time at the fucking state fair. They won't be vaccinated because, I don't know what's in there. This is the same group of people that for the last 10 days have been shoveling fried bolts and nuts down because that's all right. Viewership of the Olympics down over 50% this time around.
I'm not surprised.
Well, there's a lot of reasons, but yeah, plans are being made. Actually, I suggested this, and the committee is weighing the idea. I said, have the forthcoming Winter Olympics combined with the ratings lousy Oscars and Emmys.
There you go.
And the award for Best Supporting Actor goes to, America Scores on the Slapshot. And Billie Eilish's new, and we've given her a hard time, but Billie's new and second album has become her second #1 album. And of course, we all remember the smash single from the first album. I'm not coming home. And we went out and got somebody to get it for us, a little snippet from the award-winning super smash single from this latest groundbreaking album. I'm not coming home. Oh, and don't forget, if you're just joining us, and what the fuck, it's a podcast. You don't tune in late to a podcast. You just start it over again. She did, with her brother, write, and she performed the theme song for the forthcoming Bond film. I'm not coming home. The Bond film was supposed to be called, I think, No Time to Die, yes. But it's been renamed I'm Not Coming Home. I'll bet Billy and Phineas don't listen to the Blab, otherwise we'd be hearing about it.
Yeah.
All right, you got a butt plug this week?
Of course I do.
You do?
I got 2 butt plugs.
Uncle Dave's Butt Plug Playhouse.
Well, I'm not taking one of those butt plugs. So,
do you know who Leonard Brown is?
Is he Bad Leroy's brother?
No.
Okay.
After 17 months working at home during the COVID, Leonard returned to work last week.
Yeah.
He masturbated in his office on his first day back and got caught.
Well, but what does he do for a living?
They didn't say, but his explanation was that he thought he was still home. This is a true story.
I don't doubt it.
That sounded reasonable to me. I mean, it's believable.
Well, that's why I asked what he does for a living. Because if he's in Congress, jacking off is pretty much one of the daily activities.
Now, this one I knew you'd get it. And again, Lori Lightfoot's city is under siege. A man has been arrested in Chicago after attacking an off-duty police officer and biting off his friend's nipple during a road rage incident Sunday night. Kyle Clark, 35 years old, was driving a black Volkswagen Jetta when he sideswiped another vehicle carrying an off-duty officer and his friend. The off-duty officer and his friend pulled up alongside Clark and ordered him to pull over, and he identified himself. Hey, I'm a police officer. You need to pull over so we can report this accident. After the 3 men exited their vehicle, Clark allegedly punched the off-duty officer twice in the face, and when the friend tried to help, Clark attacked him and completely bit off his nipple. Now, the only question I had is, why was his nipple out? Is that some sort of kung fu defense?
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that perhaps the guy had on like a t-shirt, and the guy just got a mouthful of t-shirt. But it's not as sexy or sensational to say in the news story that the guy bit him on the chest and his nipple went with it, etc.
Well, police arrived at the scene shortly after, and they took Clark into custody after a brief struggle. The off-duty cop's friend was taken to the hospital for treatment for the missing nipple. Now, is that something like you could put the nipple on ice and reattach it, or is your nipple just gone? You look like a nipple expert.
I only marry them. I don't really know how they work. That's a poser. Anybody, kids out there, little science experiment as you go back to school pretty soon, if you can't figure it out before now, or something to Google. But yeah, just make sure that you're using the private browser and not record-keeping browser.
So Kyle Clark, well done. Well done. You beat up an off-duty cop and bit his friend's nipple off.
It's a little nipply out here.
Yeah.
I'm just imagine how much more sensationalistic. I'm thinking Evander Holyfield and Mike Tyson and how it would have been
if he bit his nipple instead of his ear.
Yeah,
that would have been.
Holyfield would have killed him. Tyson would have died in the ring.
Must see viewing.
It's one thing to bite a man's ear, but you
don't bite his nipple.
You don't take my tit, man. That's a no-go. By the way, big news. I meant to mention it at the beginning of the podcast, but I got away from me because we had so much stuff to get to. I got a very nice email this past week from a noted, very conservative, just like ultra-conservative commentator of some renown, who said he enjoyed listening to our show very much, and he would be delighted to give us a little endorsement so we could use it in our sweepers. So we haven't been able to put the sweeper together, but he was happy to record a little snippet of what he will put into. I just wanted to play this for you because we're very excited around here, and you'll recognize him immediately because he's not on national television currently because he got into a little brouhaha, but he's still a big force in the conservative thing. Well, check this out.
I'm Bill O'Reilly. Fucking thing sucks.
So that's going to be in
Was he talking about our podcast?
Yeah, he was nice. It's going to be something like, conservatives all over the world listen to the Blab. Bill O'Reilly.
I'm Bill O'Reilly. Fucking thing sucks.
So
we need to put that together. That's awesome.
I get the team on that right away. All right, what do you got?
I got one more thing.
Of course you do.
Civil rights attorney Ben Crump tweeted out that he was very happy that the Minnesota Real Estate Commission has removed master bedroom from their listings, claiming that many people associate the term with slavery. I associate it with masturbating, but I don't know, maybe. Crump tweeted, "Words matter." And immediately the internet did its thing, and he was just torn apart. For stupid. He's an attorney. Why would he be that stupid?
I don't have any answer to that question under any circumstances ever anymore. I just try to.
And I think that.
Well, you know what I do when it gets to the point I simply can't deal with it anymore. I kick back, I put the headphones on, and I listen to something by Billie Eilish.
I have one more thing. Your hometown, your former hometown, Nashville, Tennessee. There was a Wild West-like shootout in the Walmart parking lot on Sunday night.
Yeah, we do that all the time.
Well, a man just started randomly firing bullets towards a woman that he knew, probably his wife or second wife or third wife or fourth wife.
Memory serves. Yeah.
Third. And that sent her screaming into the store. So he got into his truck and almost ran over an innocent bystander who started yelling at him. Then he got out of the truck and started shooting again.
Yeah.
And then he got back into his vehicle and then drove over another guy. That was the Walmart parking lot in Nashville, Tennessee. Yes. Sunday night.
Yes. I saw a piece of that news story. But I did see the wrap-up paragraph where it said, "This guy now." Did you have a name on this guy?
No, they didn't have a name.
Okay, you might want to Google this because I understand he has moved to the top of the list of the presumptive favorites for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination.
People are crazy, man.
But Bill O'Reilly likes us.
I'm Bill O'Reilly. Fucking thing sucks.
So there's that. All right. You know what? Here's the thing. Barring flood famine, next week going to be some kind of encore presentation of something, and then after that, who the hell knows? We don't have elaborate time, and I didn't want to talk about this at length anyway, so I won't mention it. We've been talking about this. I'm having a little work done a week from, well, next Wednesday when we would be doing a new show. And so we ain't going to be doing a new show next week.
He's getting his balls stuck.
I'm getting his balls stuck. And, yeah. And, actually, I'm taking French lessons.
Je m'appelle Claude.
Je t'appelle Blue.
Anyway, so we haven't decided yet how we're going to fill the hole with reruns or whatever. It won't be as long. It won't be as long as, I don't know, a couple of weeks maybe, probably.
I used to be really good at filling the hole, so we'll figure something out.
Hits today, 3 yesterday. Here's the 1-0. And again, it's 2-0. And this is not gone.
Or as Dave is known in his more popular ventures, Dinger. Anyway, so no new show. It's no big deal. I'm having a knee replaced.
We'll work it out.
Yeah, but I'm gonna be real pissy.
Yes,
because they never give me enough of the good stuff for my high tolerance to pain relief. And so if you think I'm a pain in the ass when I'm feeling reasonably well, you want to get me when I'm hurting.
So let's wrap up this whole episode. We learned to fuck the Democrats, fuck the Republicans.
No, you learned that this week and finally came to terms with it. You see, in this scenario, I am Obi-Wan. You are Master Luke. So wait, I'm sorry. Can't say Master Luke.
Yeah, that's too slavery-like.
I have to say like so. Anyway, yeah. Other than that, we'll be back when we're back. And in the meantime, thanks to for all the best wishes that are going to come flooding my way, and also the ex-wives cutting me some slack on the alimony. That's really great.
Nice. Way to go, ex-wives.
All right, that's all I got. Anything else?
Nothing else.
There you go. Well, we'll be back whenever the hell we're back with more of Bill O'Reilly.
I'm Bill O'Reilly. Fucking thing sucks.
What's he talking about? The Blab.
You know what? I killed hundreds of thousands of people with stupidity.
America stands united, and I mean totally united.